Hello everyone, welcome back to Summer Heights for a final time, where in today's episode we're going to be doing a full park tour for this park. Now, I've been working on this park for about 3 years now. I think 3 years, maybe 2 years. I started it towards the end of 2020, so yeah, no, just under 2 years. Although in the last year, I think I've literally done 2 shops, a hotel and a car park. So you know, the progress in the last year has been really slow. I haven't put too much time into the project, but I wanted to get it completed by the end of the year, so I've done a load of backstage and car park and road layout stuff off camera, which you will see in this video as well. The shot that you can see at the moment, as we're just outside the park entrance, I'm using one of the nice sort of camera modifications, the in-game ones, that just make the palette look a bit nicer. However, for the sake of frame rate, we are going to take that off for the tour and just have it in the standard mode. My computer cannot run reshade, so we're not going to be using that. Well, it can run it, but we're getting a really low FPS. So we're just going to have, like I say, the normal camera and hope that we get a reasonable frame rate, because although this is a small park, it is a very highly detailed park, and I've used a lot of pieces in it and some TMTK, which also slows down the performance a bit, and my computer isn't that powerful, so we're just going to see what we can do with what we've got. And with that in mind, let's get into the park tour. Here we are then at the spawn point for Summer Heights, and before we get on with the tour, I will just mention that the video for this tour was filmed before the commentary, so I'm just talking over my own video, and that's mainly due to audio sync issues that I've been having on the channel. I wanted to make sure that the timing for this was perfect, which we'll also take a look at in the editing and everything like that. So you can see we're outside the front of the park, and we're currently in Tedged mode. Some of this video is in Tedged, but some of it's sort of overviews and cinematic shots as well. I'm not the best at controlling the camera in Tedged, so you'll have to bear with me a bit on that front. As you can see, the entrance building here, it's a nice entrance. It's sort of inspired by a Six Flags park. I can't remember which one, possibly Six Flags Over Georgia. I don't want to say though, that's probably wrong. I'm sure someone told me back when I built this 2 years ago in the comments, but I can't remember for the life of me which park it was based on. And this is sort of a small family run park with a fairly low budget, although there is quite a heavy level of sort of theming and detailing, but it's a smaller size park, and that's mainly due to the capabilities of my PC. I'd rather focus a bit more on the detail and finish everything off nicely than make a mega park, which I know my PC wouldn't be able to handle, especially at this level of detail. Quick look there then inside the gift shop and this guest services building as well. All interiors sort of custom made except from the items in the gift shop, which are from the workshop. And then that brings us to our first ride, the classic carousel in this central plaza area, which, yeah, you've got to have one of these carousels. And then behind it you can just see this row of Victorian facades that we've got here. You know, these were one of the first things obviously that I built when I built the park, and I think that they just sit really nicely together and give this sort of classic feel to this theme park. And you know, some of these buildings is probably where they spent a lot of their budget, aside from the coasters themselves, because yeah, they are very sort of nicely detailed. And it was really just a test to myself to see what I could do with the pieces in this game, and see what detailing I could do on these buildings. So going around to the left side, then we come to our American steakhouse. It's a Chief Beef Steakhouse with a Chief Beef and a Gulpy soda store. We've got some custom made booths in there as well, and we've got a little outside seating area here. Yeah, not much more to say about that restaurant really. And then we come to our first themed area. So we're just sort of taking a look outside at the moment, where you can see we've got our Intamin launch coaster and we'll get back to that in a minute. I built this sort of sort of San Francisco inspired harbour area, and we called it Trawler's Wharf, which is a bit of a sort of nod towards Fisherman's Wharf. But yeah, slightly different theming to your usual sort of pirate stuff that you see in the game. Thought I'd try and do something a little bit different with the theming. And yeah, you can see we've got our lighthouse here, which you've got to have if you're doing sort of harbour style theming. Christ knows how many pieces that is, actually looking at it. That looks like it'd have a high piece count. But yeah, there's lots of buildings that will sort of work fairly well together, I feel, with the launch coaster there running just behind them. And we also put in some custom fencing around here as well. I think that's just using some wooden posts and then like some fantasy type pieces. But at this point I was really enjoying doing the dome technique for building, circular pieces and stuff like that. So unfortunately the layout of this park isn't the best, because we have to go all the way back round here to get to the coaster. There really should be a path just going across there, but unfortunately I didn't make it work like that, so it's fine, it is what it is. Here's my custom made lifeboat then. I'm really proud of this. I think that looks really, really cool and fits so nicely into the area. I give it quite a prominent position as well, so that you notice it as soon as you come into the park. Mainly made from basic shapes, that one. And then just behind that you can see the transfer track. There's a big sort of gate that comes down to cover it up, so it wouldn't be too noticeable when you're on the ride. But from a realism point of view, it should work. Functionality there for storing the coaster trains. And then this big load-off facade you can see behind the water tower there is the coaster station and queue line, and that all sort of sits nicely and covers all of that up. So you'll see in a minute when we go through the queue line itself. And we have the coaster track coming out of a little sort of broken section in the facade there where the train comes flying out, so it's a really good sort of interaction, a bit of guest interaction for the guests walking around on the park there, on the path, sorry. And yeah, I believe this coaster is actually really good for that. It does that sort of thing several times. There's quite a lot of good moments of interaction with the path work and various other elements. So coming to the queue line here, you can see my camera work is absolutely dreadful. We've got a fast pass queue there, but we're going to take the normal one, so you can see some of the theming, very light theming, quite a few TMTK pieces in there as well. You can see there we just went past a staff entrance. I have done all sort of backstage areas for this park as well, which we'll take a brief look at the end of the tour. And then we go up the stairs into the sort of main part of the queue. This is actually a really long queue, possibly one of the longest I've ever done. Although I do like long queues, obviously not standing in them in real life, but I do like some of the theming that you can get inside a nice long queue, and each room has its own sort of separate design and style to it, I guess. I'm not terribly impressed with this bit actually, where I've just covered it in rock work. I think it's just because the coaster train goes directly over it, so I had to squash everything in. And this bit as well looks a little bit plain, just wooden walls either side, but it's fine. We'll just skip through all that, click through all the guests while we're in Tension Cam, and that brings us finally into the station itself, which I think is quite nicely themed. Again, very basic, just a few barrels and stuff like that, but using nice barriers and walls and whatnot. I hope you got a look there at the stats if you wanted to. I'm now going to shut up and let you enjoy the coaster, and then we will talk about it afterwards. there we go then, that was Shark Attack, our Intamin launch coaster. That's a really long layout actually. I forgot quite how long I made that one. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that turned out. And I think it's, like I said, got some good interaction. I obviously showed you a nighttime POV as well of that one, because it does have some quite nice night lighting on it as well. That's something I actually forgot to record for this video, much sort of the night time, but we do have a couple of parts of the park that look good at night that I show you. Carrying on with the tour then, and we're going to go back up to the sort of central area, and this is behind the row of Victorian facades at the front. Just going to have a look at this little staff area then. We've got some staff rooms there and some seating for the staff to have their lunch on a nice sunny day, like it always is in Flanco. And then we've got more guest seating out here as well for the guests to stop and eat any picnics or anything that they've bought from other areas of the park. And we're going to go down now and look at the Caribbean themed area. And this is the area that I worked on last, or most recently. And I say most recently, I finished it about last Christmas, so we're talking over a year ago that I finished this. That shows how little really that I've actually done on the park in the last year. It's just taken me a year to do finishing touches basically. But we're going to take a look inside the main sort of the main thing for this area, the main attraction I guess for this area, which is Marley's Restaurant, obviously a Jamaican inspired themed restaurant that would serve some of that lovely stuff like jerk chicken. And yeah, this is fully kitted out with an interior. I feel this is probably the best interior I've done for anything in the park, so we get a good look at this sort of at night time, obviously using then traditional sort of reggae colours to light everything up, using quite a few TMTK pieces here as well, such as the walls, and we've got some custom made bars downstairs as well. As you can see here, I'm stuck at the top of the stairs, so we do have to pause and come back to that. And there we go, we're now magically outside the building. So just taking a look across the waterfront at night, I feel this area is lit up really well at night, and something that's probably quite believable for a well-themed park like this. And yeah, I was pretty happy with how that row of facades and the restaurant turned out as well. And we're just going to go back to daytime for the next bit, and we're going to take a look at our bobsled coaster that we did for this area. A bit of an unusual choice of coaster, I know, but that's because it's themed to Cool Runnings, the film about the Jamaican bobsled team. Very, very light theming in this one because I couldn't really think what to do. But just the fact of what it is, if you've seen the film, it will all make sense. We'll take a look at the queue line here, then it's literally just rock work and foliage. I really struggled to start with this because the coaster track, the supports structure was literally coming through all the foliage, so I had to play about with that. And yeah, but anyway, inside the station here, you can see it's all quite nicely themed as well inside this building. And we'll take a POV if we get the right car. And again, I will shut up and come back to you after the POV, so enjoy. was our bobsled coaster then, Cool Runnings. Yeah, just before we leave, then we're going to take a quick look at this bit in daylight, in daytime rather. There's a little market stall that I put together there as well, and a small bit of theming here as you come into the entrance of the coaster. Just a crashed toboggan that's crashed into a sort of shack that's built there. Got our flat right there to the left, and then we come through to a sort of cave, I guess. We're just going to take a sort of cinematic look across the lake here. And I think, I always think it's good, the use of water in this game, to make things reflect off the water. I think that's a really nice riverside in front of the water there. That's definitely something that I'll play about with more in future parks that I do. Getting that nice sort of ripple effect on the water. And so we're going to continue and head into this cave section, which there's really not a lot to say about. It's mainly just that there's a pathway through connecting it all up as a loop, so there's no dead ends. And that basically brings us on to our final Roman themed area. I don't know where I'm going here. For some reason I'm going back round to the front. Oh, we're going to I can't remember what I did. I only filmed this yesterday. I can't remember. Going to take a look at that section from the other side then. So that's sort of a Caribbean beachy area. Really nice little tropical area there. That sort of thing I find fairly simple to do. Nothing too crazy there. But I feel it works quite nicely in this themed area. So we're going to go and take a look at the Roman Empire themed area, which is our third and final themed area for the park. Probably the bit that I spent the longest on, because it's probably the largest area of the park, and it's probably the best laid out as well, with the log flume and the coaster at the back, and then lots of sort of things leading up to it. So we've got an inverted coaster there, a B&M invert, and a log flume that you can see splashing down here from the front, and then just a load of sort of Rome-esque style or Romanesque style architecture, which is all custom made and all very, very heavy on the piece count. Looking back, I probably wouldn't do that again, where I've made everything out of individual pieces. You'll see what I mean when we get a closer look at some of the buildings here, but obviously it really does sort of add to the lag a bit of the park, having so many pieces for each building, making everything custom like that. Just taking a little look round here then at the gardens section, and we're going to go up and have a look at this restaurant as well. Really there's nothing to talk about in the interior here. It's pretty bland. Just a couple of food stalls. I should have put some seating inside actually. I really don't know why I didn't, but not to worry. We've got a nice terrace here that people can eat, and obviously the food inside is pizza, which is very fitting for the area. And then we'll take a look at that building from the outside as well, and you can see it's just a nice, nicely nestled in amongst various foliage and flowers and plants and stuff like that. So that brings us to our log flume then. A lot of the buildings in this area are very samey, but I tried to give them each their own unique style as well, which I think can be difficult sometimes as well, especially sort of when you're limited to what pieces you can use, and trying to replicate a style that obviously isn't in-game. All of the themes that I've gone for here are not generic themes that the game uses, so I've had to sort of rack my brains to think what pieces I can use to replicate the sort of styles I'm going for. And I have to say most of this is in-game pieces and not TMTK, but I think there are a few TMTK paths and like path covers and stuff like that I use. But I did keep it mainly in-game in this area. So let's go and take a ride on the log flume. Pretty standard queue line, really, just sort of wraps around
the entrance. I remember really struggling with this bridge and getting the entrance and exit paths to sync up there, just because of where the log flume itself is. But yeah, let's take a ride on this log flume, and I'll speak to you after. Okay, so that was our log flume. I don't know if I've actually given that one a name. I'm pretty bad sometimes for naming rides. I know I've named all the coasters in this park, but some of the other attractions, I'm not sure if I have. But yeah, we'll just go with Roman log flume for now. I think that's fine as a name. Obviously, lots of theming, lots of nice theming inside of the log flume building as well. And it has a bit of interaction with the coaster as well. You can see my bad camera work again, and we're just heading up the queue line for Warrior here, which is our B&M invert. Yeah, this one again, quite heavily themed, works quite nicely with the surrounding area. Here's just a quick look at the station building from outside, because we didn't really look at that properly before. And then we're going to go inside and take a ride on Warrior. Brief look at the stats. I'm sorry if you want to see more of the stats in this video, then you're just going to have to pause it. But yeah, let's do a POV and I'll speak to you again after. Okay, that's our inverted coaster Warrior. So it probably is worth mentioning that I did the 3 or 4 meter smoothing technique, or whatever it is, for the main 3, well, the only 3 coasters in the park. That's probably not something that I'd consider doing again because it's very time consuming. It does make them fairly nice and smooth, but there's still some janky elements on these coasters anyway, even after doing that. So yeah, I think don't think I'll be doing that again. But yeah, obviously that coaster sort of has a custom layout, like as do all the coasters in this park, really, to fit in with the scenery and theming around it. There's, they're not the most realistic layouts, I suppose, for these coasters, but yeah, I think they work fairly well for the environment that they're sort of situated in. So that's all the coasters done then, and all the themed areas done. So we're just taking a little walk around this pathway that I believe I built off camera. You won't see that in any of the speed builds. There's some parts of this park that are just some finishing touches that I did, which was probably about another 10 hours of gameplay, all done off camera. And right now we're looking at the hotel building, which is the last speed build for the park that I did. So we're going to actually leave the park now and go and take a look at the hotel and then some of the surrounding areas of the park. So I hope you enjoyed the park tour section of this video. And all we do then is we just take a left down this path and it brings us to the hotel. So it's right near the park entrance, really great place to stay if you want easy access to the park. There's the car park for the hotel. And here's a quick look at it outside. It's called the Park Plaza Hotel. It'd be a pretty standard 3 or 4 star family type hotel. Quite low key. It's got 3 floors. We've got a restaurant building and a bar as well as the main attraction, which is the nice pool area. And for my sins, I decided to decorate all the interiors for every room. Obviously they're all the same, I just copied them across, but yeah, that definitely added to the time spent on this build. Here you can see the pool area from a bit closer then. I believe those sunbeds are TMTK, so they're just all one piece, so they're pretty easy to do, although I did custom make the ladders into the pool because I couldn't find anything that replicated what I was looking for. So yeah, I made them out of tiny little beams, and yeah, I think they look really good though, so I'm glad I did that. And I think this is a believable sort of resort hotel for a theme park like this. Nothing too big, but just a nice sort of addition. It sort of reminds me a bit maybe of what Knott's Berry Farm have done. I believe they're actually refurbishing their hotel. Sort of off topic note there, but yeah, anyway, we'll take a quick look here inside the rooms. This was a bit of a fail, this part of the video, because I went into this room and realised the bathroom's missing some stuff. It's supposed to be a shower obviously and a toilet in, so we went into the next one and found, yeah, that is a complete bathroom. The shower's custom made, the toilet and the sink are just TMTK items. But yeah, I think the room's nice and modern, quite realistic to what hotels are sort of furnished like nowadays. Lots of blues and whites with a few sort of beigey colour panels. That's a colour that's really in at the moment, beige, in interior design. Or as far as I know it is, I'm not an interior designer. So here's an overhead view of the pool. Obviously, it was quite difficult to make doing the dome technique several times there, but anyway, moving on, you can see some of the road layouts and stuff that we've got for the park, and you can see a tram stop that we've got here right outside the entrance. So we're going to take a little ride on the tram, which is obviously the studios tour. Now my main problem with this was actually that it needs such a wide space to do a turnaround section. It can't do tight curves for some reason, even though it's quite a small vehicle, so I had to really extend out that sort of circular area that I've got there for the tram parking. And anyway, this tram takes you over to the car park. There's also a path that you can see. We're just going to change seats so that you can see it a bit clearer. And yeah, okay, we're not going to show the path, but there's a path running to the right of this as well, so you can get to the car park, which is just on the left there. The car park is actually a workshop item. I will put the name of the creator in the description because I can't for the life of me remember who made that, along with the gift shop items if I remember to. If I don't, I'm really sorry. I just have no sort of enjoyment out of making car parks, so I thought I was just going to nab one off the workshop and modify it a bit to sort of suit this park in this style. But it's a really nice car park, and I actually nicked an idea off M&J Games there, where they built some sort of signs for each area of the parking. So you've got parking zone A, B, C and D, help you find your car at the end of a day. That's something I've made a mistake of doing myself before actually. At Alton Towers I completely lost, I couldn't remember where I parked my car because I didn't even think to check where I'd put it at the start of the day. Too excited to go in and ride coasters, obviously. Anyway, I digress again. So just going to finish off taking a look at some of the backstage areas then. They all do link up to this exterior path around the park, but by the time I worked on some of this stuff, I was aware of the high piece count and the sort of the poor performance of the park on my PC. So I kept all the backstages and all the backstage roadworks and everything really simple. Just basically one road going all the way around, linking up to everything. And you can see here as well this warehouse building. This would sort of be offices and HR stuff as well at the top, and then obviously deliveries and everything else that you need in a warehouse at a theme park downstairs. I put a few little details in there with the vans and the boxes and some pipe work, but I kept this building really simple because it's not something that you're really going to look at for that long, and I didn't want to use too many pieces making it. So yeah, this path goes all the way around so the mechanics or whoever else's staff can get to each attraction. This is the back of the Shark Coaster. Little bit more detailed there with the backstage area because I did this earlier on in the build, so things were running a lot nicer at that point. But the FPS soon catches up with you when you start using loads of pieces. And then here's the backstage for the inverted coaster, which is a really simple sort of style backstage. And then this is a backstage for the log flume, which is a lot more complicated, but I think it's somewhat believable to how that would work with various pipes and water and stuff. It's probably not completely accurate, and it probably wouldn't work if it looked like that in real life, but it's just supposed to resemble a log flume sort of backstage. And then finally there's a backstage for the hotel. So we're just going to take a quick look at some of the roads in and out of the park then. Again, very simple. To be honest, some of the road markings do need sinking into the ground a bit more, but it's finished now, so I'm not really that bothered. It looks fine, and I've added some signs as well, so it's a believable sort of road system without going overboard, because again, that's not my favourite type of thing to do. So let's take an overview of the park in full then. This is what it looks like on the map. As you can see, it probably takes up, I'd say, maybe half of the map, if that, maybe about a third. And then the rest of the map I've just used foliage, a little bit of terrain work and some lakes so that it's not all just flat land basically. And here, as we take a look at night, I'll sort of give you my final thoughts on this build. I'd say I'm 85% happy with it. There's some bits that I've worked on really hard, making really detailed, and there's some bits that I feel there's room for improvement. although there's not a lot more that my PC could handle at this stage. I'm not running on the most sort of advanced, up-to-date system. But I feel like what I've done with this build is perfectly satisfactory. I'm happy with it as a believable, realistic theme park, and it's made me realise that realism isn't necessarily my favourite thing to do in the game. Theming is. So I think going into the future and what we may work on next is a much more fantasy style build, but that's another thought for another day. So thank you to everyone that's followed this series all the way through. I do really appreciate it. Any comments and likes and subscribers that I've got throughout all of this, it means a lot, because it's it does take a lot of time to build stuff in Planco. And as you can see, it's taken me, over 2 years to do this one park, and it's not even a big park. So maybe I need to up my game a bit with Planco. But thank you once again very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.